What if you could sit down once a week with a colleague who's a flat-out warrior? This colleague wasn't a stud in dental school. He struggled. He returned to practice in his hometown, an area once labeled by USA Today as the second worst place to live economically in the United States. And this very same colleague went on to establish an historically successful general practice known worldwide. What if you knew someone that wanted to take you by the hand and show you everything you need to know, from treatment planning to leadership, to maximizing your journey in dentistry, or just life? You ready to be inspired? Welcome to the Lionhearted.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Steve Rasner, and you're listening to the Lionhearted. Welcome back. I still have a cold. You'll have to put up with my voice. I think I have a good podcast for you tonight. I want to first just remind you that, I'm not reminding you of anything. I'm simply tell you that those of you that are interested in the surgical courses, the next set after the fall is March and April of 2023. And I already have 5 spots signed up for with deposits for the extraction and grafting course, which is really hard for me, but I just can't let it go because it's such an important precursor to those of you that want to place implants. And I give the extraction course, and a month later I give an implant course. So enough of my self-promotion. At least I admit it. But I do get a lot of responses from the podcast. And I continue to work on the 2023 live, which is either going to be late spring or fall. Listen, I think I have a good one tonight. I do all of these with a provocative goal in the back of my mind to provoke you to think about things and realize concepts that maybe you wouldn't have thought of on your own. So this is how this one happened. I'm a big sports fan, as many of you know. And I live, as you may know, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And I practice, by the way, 45 minutes to an hour from here in South Jersey, which is where I'm originally from. And I've practiced in that area for my entire career, 42 years. So I literally travel up here and go back. And because I live up here, I'm a fan of the Philadelphia Phillies. In fact, I'm a fan of all the sports up here. And we have a baseball team that was actually hateable for most of the season. Those of you that don't follow the sport, it starts in early April and it winds up, if you're a playoff team, they begin in October. And on June the 11th, I think, our team was 9 games under 500. So we had lost 9 games more than we had won. And they fired the coach in the middle of the season. And I'm telling you, I listened to either the radio or TV part of most of the games. I don't know. It's a habit from when I was 6 years old and used to sit on the couch next to my grandfather and listen on the radio to all the games. I guess that's where it came from. But I'm a fan. And this team that seems so far from success is now 4 games from the World Series. Now maybe they'll lose to the San Diego Padres. I don't know. But what I do know is a team that I watched that seemed completely dysfunctional has somehow put it together in a very short time and is on the verge of achieving the highest goal you can achieve if you're a professional baseball team. And they're not the only team that's done that. Those of you from the New York area, I could just take you back to the 2007-8 New York Giants, who defeated the Goliath of football back then, Tom Brady, and the New England Patriots that were 18-0. And the New York Giants were kind of similar to these Philadelphia Phillies. So what's all this have to do with your dental practice? Well, I think the distance from where you're at right this moment, that's what this podcast is for. I could be wrong, but I think a lot of my colleagues sometimes feel, I don't want to say hopeless, but you feel you're so far from where you need to be that it's almost not worth the work I speak about to get to the promised land. I have been there myself in my career. It may inspire some of you to know that one point in my career, I went to a bankruptcy attorney. And I mean, I paid him a retainer. I told him up front I did not want to do that, but I didn't know what else to do because my credit wasn't very good. I couldn't get loans from legitimate institutions like a bank. So I had to go to these third-party institutions that, and I don't mean loan sharks, but be honest with you, there are legal entities out there that loan money that are basically loan sharks. And that's what I had to use. And by the way, this had nothing to do with the Lionhearted cornerstones that I profess to you every week for the last 4 years. It's because of what I told you many times in these podcasts, that I did not do it the right way. I started out way, way too strong in terms of the things I wanted in life. And I spent way more money than I had. I'm talking about in my 30s. To me, if I could fit it in a monthly budget, it did not matter what the terms really were, what the interest rate really was. And I had some other setbacks too, early in my career that were pretty horrific. And if I do the live Lionhearted, I'll bring them all to the table. And it put me in a very, very bad hole. Financially, mentally, everything. I'm telling you this tonight. I didn't even plan to get this personal, but it's for you. It's for you guys that think that you don't know where to turn. Like, there's no way your present state could be ending up as a Walt Disney feel-good movie ending, and you're wrong. It can, if you want it bad enough. I'm telling you. I haven't told you half of my obstacles in life. And I know we all have them. Sometimes they're bad business decisions. Sometimes they're horrific, bad luck, health issues of you or somebody that you love. And I've had those too. And I know many of you have. It's just rarely a scenario in life where it's happily ever after and nobody trips and falls. And the question really is, as I've said in so many different ways over the last 4 years, stuff's going to happen to you. How bad do you want the end goal? How bad do you want it? How bad do you want it for you? Certainly for your significant other and your children. And when I say that, I keep alluding tonight to this end goal, this mysterious, there's no mystery. Success is working when you want to work and not working when you don't want to work because you can. So it's taking off unneeded several weeks throughout the year. And a lot of 3-day, 4-day weekends. Make no mistake about it. My compadres, I've said everything I'm telling you many different ways before. But we've chose a very hard road. the Lionhearted road is a hard road. It's much easier for you to just take all insurances and accept being paid a third less. Everybody will love you if you do that. And hell, use a lab that wouldn't dare question your margin that they can't read. And keep a real low profile. I mean, don't do anything courageous. Don't even think of going out of network. And don't even think of doing a specialty service like an implant or an extraction with grafting, because that would make the local specialist in your community angry. That's way safer. Do that. Said nobody ever that is a Lionheart. You're damn right I ain't living my life like that. And neither should you. If you're listening to me tonight and you have a dental degree, whether you've forgotten or not, that is not easy to achieve. Maybe there's a few brainiacs of you out there that it was, but for most of us, it wasn't. And in my opinion, you chose the profession that allows you to do the most in life overall. I mean, for goodness sakes, I haven't worked on a Friday in, I don't remember, 30 years? I used to for the first 12. No, I didn't even do it for the first 12. I did it for the first 5 or 6 years. And I've always said to you, and I'm not changing it tonight, in the beginning, you got to do whatever you got to do to let the community know that you're worth a try. So yes, I don't think it's sacrilegious for you in the beginning to open up a night or two a week and a Saturday. Now, they all suck, those ideas, but you have to do them along with many, many other things to let the community know that you exist. I don't think that's a big sacrifice when you look at our brother physicians who have to work 4 years as an intern and 4 more as a fellow or whatever the hell they have to do. Holy smokes. But you can become a super GP, legitimately. I mean that. Where you have extraordinary skills to do services that 25 years ago, a dentist wouldn't think a general dentist could own that skill. But the blueprint is out there for you right now to follow a continuum in a number of specialties that we weren't taught in dental school, but whether it's ortho for you to become amazing at, endo, and in my line of thinking, of course, as you know by now, I always thought the shortest road for the best professional dental life for most of my colleagues would be an oral sedation license, followed by the ability to take teeth out. That's number 2. 3 is to graft. I mean, 3 is harder than 2. Knowing what to do when, what to put in a socket, how to grow back a buccal wall. When do you need titanium? When can you use collagen? When do you need a growth protein like GEM21? Things like this. Yeah, that takes a long time. And then if you're going to know those skills, why you wouldn't assimilate at least some level of surgical and prosthetic implants, which changes people's lives beyond belief. I don't know. If you're going to do the other 3, you must do the 4th. And that's been my view. And it's led you. It gives you an opportunity to work. I mean, I work 4 days a week, and I've worked 4 days a week for many, many years. I don't work any nights. And it gives you a lot of time to enjoy the ride. Your family, your friends, your staff. But I'm getting off the track because what I said to start this was that some of you may wrongfully feel that you'll never reach that because you're such a big hole right now. And the hole may not even be just financial. It may be your practice isn't growing or the staff is just, oh my God, where do I go first? Because they all seem wrong. And I've been there too. I mean it. So let's talk about how to get you I mean, it happens in sports. From worst to first in a year is not unheard of. And they have many hurdles for that to happen, as do we. So here's what it makes me think of. For those of you that may be struggling, or maybe you're not struggling, you just can't grow and take it to the next level. So you have to, the first thing you got to do is stand in front of a mirror in your house and ask yourself the question, are you doing enough? Because you've been in business for 25 years as a dentist might mean you're just the same dentist you were 25 years ago. Time in doesn't make you worthy of everybody coming to you. So when you look in the mirror, what do you see? Some of you will say, I'm passionate. And that's required. But it's not enough. There are many passionate dentists, I'm sure better than myself, that aren't courageous enough. You're too fearful. You won't learn and take that leap, which is hard to do. You won't go back and sign up for the continuum you need or take the series of courses to add a skill set. You won't meet enough as an office. And I've said it many times, and Mary, if you're listening, down in Florida, I did find the things you asked me for. Yeah, I have people all over the place. I don't know if they're comfortable with me telling this particular person's an amazing human being, by the way, married to an amazing person. You know what's amazing about successful people? They never stop learning. They never stop growing. I remember seeing Mike Picos, one of the most brilliant, well-known oral surgical educators in the world, at a course I sponsored. I had somebody in the room that I brought in from Germany, and Mike came to the course. He got there 2 o'clock in the morning, by the way, the night before, because he was doing other things. And he was taking notes like he was a first-year dental student on subjects I know he knew. And that is a common thread that I have witnessed with successful people. I know I'm all over the place. What I'm trying to say to you is you got to start if you don't like where you're at, or that you want to expand your journey to a higher level. Maybe you're okay with the level you've reached. And it begins by looking in the mirror and asking yourself these things. Most of you are probably passionate if you've achieved some level of success, but I said that's not enough. It takes courage to break from an insurance practice that most of you have. I absolutely get it, and it took me years. I want you to know that. Me, Steve Rasner, the Lionhearted. And by the way, I overcame all of those financial obstacles. I never did claim bankruptcy. And I never even went back and told the lawyer the end of the story, which the end of the story is not here. But I'm certainly don't need to work anymore if I didn't want to. And I can live pretty nicely. And I'm not bragging, because if you knew my life, you'd probably be happy for me that that's where I landed. But it takes a lot of courage to break that. To make that one break is courageous. It is. To say, because it's a year process. It's not a 2-week process to break free from insurance. And it's the number one thing dragging most of you down. And I've witnessed myself in the last 12 months the journey of at least 3 of you that listen to me. 3. And that's how I only know about you 3, because you're considerate enough to share with me your journeys and tell me what you were going to do, and you did it. And you can't even imagine how happy these people are, because you're doing it. You're not doing more work. You're doing what you're doing now. You're just enjoying being paid a full fee instead of a middleman that takes for 30% and determines not only that, but what type of dentistry you can do. It's so liberating. I can't put it in words to you. What else do you have to? Are you networking as a dentist that wants to reach the pinnacle? Do you know what we used to do? And I got to tell you, it was uncomfortable. I would reach out and have a dinner. I'm not going to exaggerate. I would do it twice a year. I thought in my mind in the beginning I would do it quarterly, but I ended up doing it twice a year. And I'd reach out to the plastic surgeon, to the best plastic surgeon, the best ophthalmologist. It's been a while. The best everything, the best of the best in my community. And I would ask them to join me for dinner. They didn't need me to, but I paid for it. I said, let's brainstorm how we can make the medical community and each other better. That was pretty cool. It was pretty cool to sit at a dinner table. We only have a couple restaurants from where I'm from. And sit with these guys. I didn't know these guys personally. I reached out to their managers. It didn't happen overnight. And I meant it sincerely. We kept each other's cards and and promotions in each other's offices. And we spoke highly of each other because we had respect for each other as the best of the best at what we did. Have you ever done anything like that? That even takes courage, to be honest with you. And it certainly takes energy. So I would say the first thing that you need to do is figure out who you are. You're not listening to this podcast just because you want a lot of money, because that's certainly not what I'm just about. I'm far from that. This is about the whole package, man. This is about you being truly happy with, most of all, stemming from your professional life. Obviously, your personal life is more important than your professional life. But when you spend 40 hours a week, or whatever the hours are, and a lifetime creating this organization, because that's what we do as dentists. We create small communities, do we not? And does it not make you feel better about yourself, which makes you better for your family when you feel good about what you have achieved and cultivated? It does for me. It did for me. It does. I mean, I'm 42 years into it. You're probably sick of me saying this, but I know the closest people in my life are so proud when they walk into my office. It's like, I don't know, the closest thing to being a movie star, I guess, where you can tell that the people from my staff to the patients that are in that chair are proud to be a part of that. It's joyful. And by the way, nothing is perfect. I had a guy walk in today. I got to drop these bombs on you because I want to keep it real. I had a guy walk in today with a partial denture. This is true. That I made in 2015. He has not been back from 2000. I mean, is this not real? Is this not what happens? I mean, and it came in with his wife. He was screened poorly by my staff. I'll get back to that in a minute. In other words, I didn't have a lot of notes on him. And I walked into a hornet's nest. Can you imagine? I hadn't seen this gentleman in I guess it's 7 years. He didn't keep his appointments. Multiple broken appointments documented. He had a partial denture with 2 implants with zest locators. And he broke off some teeth. 3 teeth over the weekend. And he's mad at me. And he wants the teeth added back. And I went through and did examination, and he's got periodontal disease. He's not going to lose his teeth, but they need treatment. His partial doesn't fit like it did 7 years ago. He thought that was odd. And that conversation went nowhere. It went south really quick. I'm only throwing that out there for you so you know in the midst of a joyful day by me, where somebody else, honest to God, brought us homemade soup. It's every day. It's soup, it's a cake, it's a card, it's a gift, it's a hug. And I know you know what I'm talking about. I know this isn't just me. That's a Lionhearted dentist who gets it. And those of you that aren't there yet can get there. Even if you're financially so far from where you want to be, like I was. I couldn't be any further from where I needed to be in my 30s. I mean it. And it's way, way far in my memory. And if it came from a lot of hard work, not weekend hard work, by the way, a lot of organized work, to make these changes that we talk about, you've got to meet. You have to meet and spend time and put down drills. And that's hard to do when you're worried about revenues all the time. It's hard to have the mindset to, and I did it, and I did it religiously. I look back at what I used to do about morning meetings. So I've said this to you many times. You have to have morning meetings and monthly meetings. They are two different things. But if you miss either one of them, you're never going to achieve anywhere near the levels of success of many Lionhearted dentists that I know or that you could. They're two different things. So I pulled out my and some of you, I have this book now, but I pulled out the morning meeting. I pulled out the early chapters, and I just want to read them to you real quick, and then we'll move on. The 1 hour before you practice protocol. And you better believe, if you're looking at me in the eye right now, I did everything I am telling you here. The 1 hour before you practice protocol. I don't do it anymore, by the way. And you know what? I'm going to tell you one more important thing. I don't think my practice is cooking on all cylinders this year. We're doing pretty good numbers. Many of you would be amazed by the numbers, but I feel that I took my foot off the pedal a little bit. I do. And I took more time off than ever, which I highly encourage you to do, not when you're 60, but in your 30s, from the beginning. You should do that. But I don't know. I just haven't been as tenacious as I was. And I feel it. It feels sloppy. And I encourage you not to follow me on that. So I'm just being honest. When I tell you this 1 hour before you practice, it says this one's for the doc. It states that you'll arrive at the office to take care of all the stuff involved in running a practice that does not involve production. 1 hour before patients. Follow-up calls to colleagues, laboratories, and patients. Putting out a fire with an employee, dictating a letter, making a final decision on a piece of equipment to buy, or just reviewing that day's patients. For years, I started practice between 10:15 and 10:30, I wrote. The problem was that the patient was there at 10. I would take coffee, phone calls, give anesthetic, and then I would create staff problems. Nothing good came from starting late. So part of running a successful practice does include ancillary duties that have nothing to do with a 40 micron margin or palpating tender medial pterygoids. You need time to do stuff. So give yourself time before you start your day. And when it's time to be productive, be productive. That's just the hour before. And then I go on to a morning meeting, which I am going to dedicate a podcast to soon. Let me leave you with this. I started by telling you that the distance between where you might be right now, and for all of us, that's not nirvana. For many of us, we get in spaces in our careers that don't feel comfortable. Sometimes it's you're in so deep, you feel there's no way out. I am here to tell you tonight, there's always a way out. 100% of the time. You may not believe that or feel that right this second, even after you hang up from this podcast. But I'm telling you it's true. I've overcome more obstacles than any of you ever want to even dream about. And it came by me outworking everybody else. And when I say outworking, that means smart working. That means not just a ton of hours. That means being very proficient in the things I decided to do. And most of that has to do with training a team around you. And what goes along with that is a lot of work in selecting the right team and a lot of courage, which is why I mentioned those traits, and having the ability to let people go that are toxic. I've let multiple people go in my career that were with me over 10 years that I was scared to let them go because they did a pretty good job, I thought, and I trusted them. But not all of us grow together at the same pace. And sometimes you will find that your mindset for what you want your practice to be represented by will change. And that person that's been there for a long time may not want to change with you. And that takes a lot of courage, man. Especially today, because it's harder than ever to get staff. It's not hard to get staff if you're the best practice in town, by the way. That's just true. Or if your community perceives you, and that includes the dental community, the people that work in other offices, they know what your practice is like. I know I was a little scattered tonight. My point I wanted to leave you with was, if you're not in a good place, we can fix that. We can. I don't care what it is. You can fix it. You have to love dentistry, and you have to believe that you can have this practice that you have, or even work for another practice, and remember me having that conversation with you? Even if you're an associate, go out and get a sedation permit. You'll be the most sought after associate in the state you're in. And then learn other procedures. Isn't it weird or funny how it always comes back to what kind of investment are you willing to make in yourself as a dentist? How hard are you willing? It's hard to take courses. It's hard to take a weekend off. You know, I got a course coming up in 4 weeks. There'll be dentists from coast to coast that paid a lot of money and took a weekend out of their life, plus to travel, to pick up a skill that they will take back or further a skill that they already had. That's the price. I don't think that's a lot to have it the terms that you want. You're not going to change the terms of being an insurance-free practice. You're not going to be able to ever get away from insurance unless you have a reason for patients to go out of network. And that's the bottom line. I used to start every meeting by asking my team, what are we going to do today to earn our right for the people who come to us, that choose to come to our practice, to go out of network to come to our practice, to pay more out of pocket to come to our practice? Are we going to be ho-hum about our jobs today? Are we going to be that special business that we've all been in before, where, wow, this is amazing? The Four Seasons Hotel, the Ritz-Carlton, some Starbucks. Sometimes it's a clothing store. Sometimes it's a veterinarian's office. I'm certainly not the only one that's invented this. It's all over the country. There's just not enough of us. I hope this helped. Gosh, I hope I could recapture it. Feels like I waited, 35 minutes to get hot enough to communicate the way I wanted to. I'll see you next week on the Lionhearted.